Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Corrupt Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 2016 animated musical fantasy comedy titled Trolls. Now, Trolls runs for 92 minutes long. It is directed by Mike Mitchell. It is produced by Gina Shea, and the script was written by Jonathan Abel, and Glenn Berger. The is based on a story by Erica Ravinoha, and it is inspired by the Troll dolls, which were created in 1958 by a Danish woodcarver by the name of Thomas Dam. Now, the score was done by Christoph Beck, the cinematography by Young Duck June, and it was edited by Nick Fletcher. And the stars of the movie are Anna Kendrick, Justin Timberlake, Zooey Deschanel, Christopher Mintz-Plasse, Christine Baranski, Russell Brand, Gwen Stefani, Jeffrey Tambor, Kunal Nayyar, John Cleese, and Quvenzhane Wallis. Well, back in the 1950s, a Belgian artist who went by the name of Peyu created those lovable, blue-faced, whimsical little creatures known as the Smurfs. By 1958, a Danish woodcarver by the name of Thomas Dam built a wooden doll for his young daughter, which, like the Smurfs, would become a cultural icon better known as the Trolls. Now, these cute little peculiar critters with their over-the-top pointy, colorful hair have become one of the most popular toys in the 60s and the 70s, and it continued to have exceptional fame again in the 1990s with the little, like, diamondy type apparatus attached towards their belly buttons. And of course, if you have a troll, you just, make a wish and maybe hopefully it'll come true. Not that I really ever believe in that kind of stuff, but hey, it's kids, it's imagination. And imaginations, you could stretch the limits to anything you like. There is no boundaries. So, for what it was, this film was, of course, truly based off of a very popular doll that kids have grown to love and cherish, especially during my youth, or the dying days of my youth as I emerged into adulthood in the late 90s. Yes, that's right, folks. I'm an old man. I may not look it, but I am. It should come as no surprise that these iconic toys would be spawned into a full-length animated feature that really inspires you to yearn for Saturday morning cartoons like they did back in the 80s, and so that I can come back and enjoy them with some nice, sweet, sugary cereal. That's right. I remember when I was just a little boy, and usually, now that I'm 40 years old, I often tend to sleep in on weekends. I probably sleep in now till 10, 10 in the morning. I could sleep in now. But when I was a little boy, I used to wake up early. Not to do my homework, but not to goof off, but I used to get up with the eager anticipation to watch my favorite Saturday morning cartoons. Back in the days when television stations had very limited, back in the days when television had very limited stations, like CBS, ABC, NBC, they used to hold all kinds of fun and exciting Saturday morning cartoons before it became passe by the time the late 90s, early 2000s came around. And I used to sit there with my bowl of Fruit Loops or Frosted Flakes or Count Chocula or Cookie Crisp. I would sit there and watch my cartoon shows with which was such a endearing time of my childhood innocence. Whether I'd be watching um, whimsical, adventurous stuff like the Smurfs, the Snorks, the Gummy Bears, or whether I'd be watching like heavy hitting action stuff like G.I. Joe, Transformers, Batman, the superpowers. I watched those kind of stuff too, and even some of the more lighter fare stuff like the Muppet Babies, the Flintstones. Hey, any kind of cartoon that I would see, I would just enjoy it. This was one of the reasons I got up early on Saturday mornings. You know, back during an innocent time. Now all you see on these stations are basically primarily just news. And who wants to see that? If you want to watch cartoons, go to Cartoon Network or Teletoon or Boomerang. That's the only place where you'll ever find your favorite cartoons. But those cartoons just don't have the same magic as the stuff that Hanna-Barbera used to put out, the stuff that Warner Brothers or any other miscellaneous stuff or any miscellaneous things that came around that Disney, Warner Brothers, Hanna-Barbera, or miscellaneous. This was the stuff that was the key to my innocence. An era that has gone away. By watching Trolls, it took me back to a period. It made me feel like an 8-year-old again. And for that, I give a lot of heavy praise for. Sure, maybe people might think it's too bright, too colory, too sparkly, too spontaneous. But then again, hey, shouldn't life be that way? Why do we have to be so glum? It doesn't have to be that way. We can enjoy life. And this is kind of like, and a movie like Trolls truly tells us that we should enjoy life because we only live once. After we're gone, will there be any happiness then? Or will it be too late? You know? And I think that's what the message was about the movie Trolls. It made me feel nostalgic. I didn't go in with kids or anything like that. Yes, I know their target audience was kids. But when I saw Trolls, I was alone. I went alone. Only because I wanted to sort of relive some childhood memories from when I was small. Is that too hard to ask? So, in their first animated feature, and hopefully not their last, we had these cute little trolls whose purpose in life is to be happy and to spend their days dancing, hugging, and singing jovial songs. It truly shows that the animators have truly taken this film by heart as they made the characters possess a softer, plushy skin complexion as opposed to the hard plastic that I remembered in the 1990s. It was also clever that the animators gave them generic clothing, partially because naked trolls do not sit very well with the sensitive viewers. I don't think kids want to be exposed to nudity. And yeah, even though the treasure trolls are naked, I guess maybe in the maybe just to be precautious, put clothes on them. It doesn't have to be anything fancy or flamboyant, but just to be safe. So, with the vibrant colors and the spontaneous musical numbers, the caressing and the hugging, this will surely attract the younger audience. And the adult with the inner child nostalgic for those 1980s cartoons, or just anyone just having a good time at the movies. Because isn't that what the movies is all about? It's about escapism. It's not about everything has to be serious. And not everything has to be not everything has to be truthful. I mean, if you go there with that kind of negative attitude, well, fuck you, because this movie is about having fun. It's about enjoying life. And even though yes, we all have bad days, I understand that. I have probably my bad days outnumber my good days. But I will tell you one thing. This movie took everything that's been bothering me and made it at least a little more better. And after watching this movie, I felt really good after. Even if it was just for a little over 90 minutes. And maybe it may not be for everyone, I understand. But sometimes some people just need to lighten up a little bit. So, the story goes a little something like this. The trolls live in a small village, very similar to that, like Smurf's village. And they spend a lot of their times singing, dancing, hugging, partying, scrapbooking, and they are very, very protective towards each other. Everybody cares about each other. There's this village that they live in. Everyone seems to be nice to one another, and it gives you that warm feeling inside. Now, even though they may live in a happy go lucky village, of course, for this story to work like any other fable or fairy tale that comes around, we always have to throw in an antagonist or antagonists to just, to stir the pot to make things all the more interesting. Because, for a story like this to work, we need a conflict. I know we don't particularly always necessarily like the idea of having conflicts within a story of this magnitude, but as reality sinks in, we all have to have some sort of a conflict for this story to keep running. So even though their village is permanently marked with glitter and happiness, they are also very, very vulnerable, and they are an easy target to a group of unhappy goons better known as the Bergens. The Bergens have a belief that the only way they can achieve happiness is if they eat a troll at a festival that they like to call Trollstice. It is kind of like a ceremony for them in which they try to capture as many trolls as they can to eat them just so that they could have their moment of happiness. Because a Bergen is never happy unless they have a yummy troll down their gullet. As Bergen leader, King Gristle or Prince Gristle played by Christopher Mintz-Plasse, is about to indulge in some delightful troll happiness. The trolls rebel by evacuating from their homes, and they abandon their homes, and then they come back about 20 years later, and the village of Bergentown is equally wallowing in misery while the trolls are in preparation for one of the biggest parties since their escape under the watchful eye of the most ecstatic and whimsical of all the trolls. Her name was Princess Poppy, played by Anna Kendrick. Not letting anything get in the way, even from the very pessimistic warnings from the gloomiest of all the trolls, named Branch, played by Justin Timberlake. Now, this is a pretty interesting thing. I was actually very invested in Justin Timberlake's character Branch, not because I'm a gloomy guy, even though I probably have many reasons to be gloomy, but still, when I think of the character of Branch, he is a very interesting character study. You know what? All the other trolls seem to have glittery, bright, vibrant colors on their complexion. Branch is of a different breed. He's gray in complexion. He's got dark hair, and he sees the world in a negative way. Maybe it might be a truthful way, but at the same time, he sees things from a negative perspective. Not necessarily because, not necessarily because he wants to be that way, but it's because of a terrible experience in which his grandmother saved his life from being eaten by a troll due to his careless ways, because he also at one time used to be a happy, jovial, easy-go-lucky guy. But since his grandmother's death, he has remained gloomy. And he kind of is like maybe more like a wake-up call for the other trolls, saying that life isn't all full of glitter, happiness, and cupcakes, and that there is danger lurking in the world. I don't think he was like saying that to be mean spirited or that he has a name to live by, but I do think he is trying to sort of warn them that, we have to lighten up a little bit. And maybe the guy doesn't want to hug and doesn't want to party and doesn't like to sing and dance. He eventually does come to the realization that maybe his grandmother never wanted him to be that way. And that even though she may be gone, doesn't mean that the spirit within her is doesn't mean it means that the spirit within her is inside of Branch. But Branch, to tell you the truth, he's not evil or anything like that. He's not a wicked troll. He's just gloomy. I mean, deep down underneath that gloominess and that pessimism, he actually has a heart of gold, and he's just trying to warn Poppy and the rest of the other trolls that their life is in danger, and that sometimes exploiting and exposing yourself too much could carry attention. So, he is the voice of reason. Even if you don't like gloomy people like him, he is truthful. I mean, eventually he does soften up and does eventually come back to being the happy troll that he once was. And that kind of is what makes him such a unique character. But like usual, they're partying catches the attention of a witch like Bergen named Chef, played by Christine Baranski, who ends up kidnapping them, which of course leads to Poppy and Branch go on a rescue mission. And like I said, this kind of takes me back to the shows like the Smurfs. In many ways, Chef could be almost very similar in character to Gargamel of the Smurfs. There was many of these kind of like search and rescue missions because like in the Smurfs village, they are happy. Most of them are happy, whimsical, uh, optimistic individuals. But of course, their happiness and their optimistic ways are sometimes often shattered because some evil sorcerer named Gargamel and his sidekick Azrael, they kidnap the Smurfs, and it kind of reminds me a lot like that. The search and rescue missions. You see that a lot on the Smurfs, and in this movie Branch, that kind of once again takes me back to the 80s when I used to enjoy watching the Smurfs. It felt like an episode of the Smurfs, an extended episode of the Smurfs. But what makes this film really truly stand out is that it works on plenty of nifty, creative ways in its storytelling, and all the while succeeding in keeping the kids entertained for the next 90 minutes. It was cool that they kind of like juxtaposed classic songs like Funky Town and September and doctored up with rap remixes. Even the Bergens get some fun out of the music, like Gorilla's Sunshine in a Bag or Lionel Richie's Hello. We do get some fairy tale subplot, almost sort of a Cinderella type story. I that was also very interesting, like a Bergen scullery maid who goes by the name of Bridget, played by Zooey Deschanel, who is head over heels with Prince Gristle, and it's up to the trolls to help Bridget meet her love interest, and also to show the Bergens that they can always be happy without having to necessarily devour a troll. Because it's not from the stomach that you find happiness, you find happiness straight from the heart. And that is what the real moral of this story is. Rounding out the impressive cast, we have John Cleese as the Bergen King. He was a pleasure as always, and a very effective supporting role was from Russell Brand as the hipster-like troll named Creek, who later becomes a traitor to them. So, I actually was impressed by the voiceover work. Anna Kendrick, she delivered her lines very well. Justin Timberlake, he was also very good in his role. And, I was just very, very happy for the cast. They all did very, very well in their performances, and I really, truly thought the voiceover work was really well done. The animation was top notch, and I think that if you have kids and you wish to show them some good solid some animation, that's great. Or if you're a nostalgic nut who wants to sort of re like to sort of like go back to your second childhood and remember those good classic 80s cartoons, this animated special truly kind of brings sort of that old school 80s animation, something for us oldies to reminisce about, because it truly felt like that. Sure, the message is that happiness is not an outer beauty, but an inner beauty is simple, but it still succeeds and it doesn't try to be too preachy about it. Or if it is preachy, it's done but not like oversaturated. And it's not like rubbed in our faces. And surely enough, if you have kids, they will have a ball with this movie. And the adults will surely recall a time when watching cartoons as kids is truly a sign of our childhood innocence that will truly remain in our memories forever. You really gotta see this movie, and it's great that you could just bring your kids to see, and you will have the time of your life. If I was to give a score out of 10, I will give Trolls a 9. So I guess this ends my writer review for this week. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead. Just remember, be kind, be courteous, and please refrain from any rude comments. And I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Red Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.